You just spit about.
Sorry. They gonna think we drunk. For real.
I just spit about. Oh my god.
My bad.
Shit. Damn.
The girls used to it.
What? Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy TC. Welcome back to another video. To piggyback on what I said last week about stop standing in your own way, I'm gonna do a part 2 with this new message talking about me versus me. Believe what God believes about you. And the 2 verses that I will be extracting my text from is John chapter 10 and Numbers 14, reading both from the New Living Translation. I'm gonna start off with John chapter 10, verse 8. But if I do his work, believe in the evidence of the miraculous works I have done, even if you don't believe me, then you will know and understand that the Father is in me and that I am in the Father. Numbers 14, verse 11. And the Lord said to Moses, how long will these people treat me with contempt? Will they never believe me even after all the miraculous signs I have done among them? So piggybacking on what I said last week about stop standing in your own way, a lot of us do have to stop standing in our own way because we subconsciously do it, because we continuously doubt ourselves, because we do not believe that we can do more than what we are doing right now. And some people, again, are not growing because they're still stuck in their own ways. They're still stuck on the things that's happened to them in the past, and they're not trying to let that go so then they can move forward. That's why it's important that you got to stop standing in your own way, and that you're going to have a continuous battle with yourself, because you're going to one point in one part of yourself wants to continue to stay stuck in your own ways, and another part wants to actually grow into positivity and actually listen to what God says. So it's going to continue to be a conflict of interest within yourself, because a lot of us really don't understand or don't know what we should do in situations like this. But you also got to understand that the enemy's tactics is to change what you believe about yourself. And if you say any of these phrases to yourself, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not beautiful, I'm not handsome enough, I'm not qualified, etc. Any down talking that you are doing to yourself, any negative talk that you're doing to yourself, that's the enemy's tactic to make you believe that you are not worthy enough to see what God sees about you. So you won't believe what God believes about you. He wants you to see yourself differently, because what you believe about yourself will also make you question what God believes about you. That's why it's important that you do not listen to what the enemy says, even though he's going to try his best to do it, because God, the enemy wants to change how you see yourself. So again, if you say any of those negative phrases about yourself, that's the enemy's tactics to make you not see yourself the way God sees about you. And God sees you as beautifully and wonderfully made, that no weapon formed against you shall prosper, that for he who has done a work in him shall complete it until the days of Jesus Christ. So if you do not understand anything from that, what you got to understand is that the enemy is trying to change how you see yourself. And if you do not believe in yourself and do not believe in God, you will not be able to carry out what God has for you, and you will not be able to see what God sees about you. And going for what Pastor Sarah Jakes Roberts said beforehand when in her message last week, when God drops something in your spirit, that is meant for you to bring forth and come into fruition. But when God drops something into your spirit, some of us can't carry out because we do not see what God sees about us. There is a conflict there, because God is trying to tell you that you can do this, that I put this inside of you. And because I put this inside of you, that you're going to be able to carry this out with no issue, no problem. It's going to come into fruition. You're going to be blessed, but you are telling yourself that you are unsure, that you don't know if you can do this, that you don't think that you can do this, that you don't think that you're qualified for this. You have doubt in yourself, but you cannot have doubt whether you can do it or not, because God already knows what he put inside of you. And what he put inside of you, he already has pre-installed you with everything that you need to do in order to bring it forth and carry out what he has placed in your spirit. He's not asking you to do something blindly. All you got to do is be what God calls you to be and what God believes about you. You're not depending on yourself. You're depending on what God has said about you. That's why it's important that you got to believe what God believes about you and not believe what other people said about you. And also, going back to what Sarah Jakes Roberts said in her message last week, you have to abandon and leave what you think your life should be based on what people tell you what your life should look like, and instead step into the life that God knows what your life should look like. So for example, if God put in your spirit to become a doctor, but your family and your friends and everyone else said that you should be a teacher, you should be a lawyer, you should be anything else than what God has already called you to be, then you got got to stop listening to what other people say that you should be, and will listen to what God says that you should be. Because in order for you to carry out the mission that God has placed inside of you, you got to listen to what God has placed into your spirit. And what God puts in your spirit, you got to bring it forth. And when you bring it forth, you can't have no doubt. Why? Because God already knows that what he put inside of you, and you got to trust and believe that God will never leave you nor forsake you, that whatever he has put inside of you, that you're going to be able to carry out with no issue. Yes, you may not know exactly all the plans and ways that God is going to bring this out for you, but you got to remember that God is very strategic, that no matter what you do, but no matter what he has assigned for you to do, that it is very strategic. He is already planned out, mapped out however this is going to work out for you. It is already worked out for you. You just got to do it and be what God calls you to be. The greatest surrender that you may ever experience is surrendering what you think your life should be, what your life should be, or what your life should look like based on other people, and see what God is trying to work through you. That's why a lot of us are still stagnant. That's why a lot of us are still not going for wherever we're supposed to go for, because we're worried about what other people are saying. We're worried about appeasing and pleasing other people instead of pleasing God. That's why none of us are advancing in life. That's why a lot of us are not progressing, because we are worried so much about what other people tell and say what our life should look like. And you got to stop looking and doubting yourself when it comes to those things, because God is trying to tell you, I got put something in you. Why are you doubting anyways? Because I know the end from the beginning. I have already mapped out how this is going to work for you. So why are you not trusting me? Why are you listening to everyone else but not listening to me? Because I created you. I'm the one that put you on this earth. I done put this in your spirit, and what I put in your spirit is supposed to change how you view yourself and change the world. But you can't change the world, number one, if you don't believe in yourself, and you don't believe in me either, because what you believe plays a huge role in your actions. So I'm gonna ask you this rhetorical question: what is it that you believe about yourself? What is it that you believe about who you are and who you aren't? Because I'm gonna tell you this too. Coming from my own personal experience, there are so many times that people have said that I'm this, that I'm that. And at the time I was very young, of course I believed them, because I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be heard, but I was going about it the wrong way. But until God put something in my spirit and said, Thomas, you are better than what these people are saying about you. That's what I started to believe in myself, and found out who I was, and I found out who I am now, because I stopped believing what other people said that I am, and also started believing what God said that I am, because I know who I am, and I know who I'm not, and I'm not what other people have said that I am. I know what God has said about me, so I chose to believe and trust what God has said about me. So that's why I'm asking you, what is it that you believe about yourself? Do you believe in yourself? Do you actually believe that you are better than what these other people have said about you? Because people are still going to say negative things about you to the day you die. But the question is that what really matters is, do you really believe what they're saying about you? Do you really believe about those things that those people are saying about you, about who you are and who you aren't? What do you deserve and what you don't deserve? Do you know the answers to these questions? If you don't, that is why it's important that you got to spend some time with yourself and understand who you really are, because there is always going to be a belief connected to an action. And if you are around people who don't believe in themselves and don't see what God sees about them, then it will creep and seep into your spirit, and it will cause you to not believe in yourself either, because I myself have done it so many times before, so I understand where that is coming from. So that's why you got to also be careful who you're sending around, so center yourself around, because if you are trying to give to positivity, if you're trying to advance, if you're trying to progress, you got to look into your circle and figure out who is actually believing what God is believing about them, who is actually believing in themselves. And if you are sitting around people who do not believe in themselves, believe that they do not know how to do this or they can't do this, then you got to learn how to cut them people off and start embracing people who are going somewhere, who believe in themselves, who believe what God believes about them. That's why it's important, because everything that you do is based upon what you believe in yourself. That's why it is important. That number one, that you got to recognize when the enemy is trying to change what you believe about yourself. You also got to abandon and leave what your life should look like based upon what other people say your life should look like, and believe what God believes about you. You also got to understand that when God drops something in your spirit, it is meant for you to bring out and bring forth and come into fruition. You cannot doubt, and you should not doubt, and please don't doubt what God is trying to work through you, because God has already pre-installed you with everything that you're supposed to do in order to bring whatever He put put in your spirit out. So you got to trust God. You got to believe in God, and you got to believe in yourself and believe what God believes about you and and believe what he sees about you. It's very important that all of us are understanding we're not depending on ourselves. We're depending on what God believes about us. And once you really believe what God believes about you and you believe in God as well, you're going to be a threat to the enemy. You're going to be a threat to society. And yes, you may lose friends. Yes, you may lose family. Yes, you may lose people that you really love, that you thought that was going to be there for you. But it doesn't matter about any of that, because what really matters the most is what you're supposed to do on this earth. You got to find your purpose. If you're not growing, if you're not progressing, this is the time, perfect time for you to believe in yourself and believe what God believes about you, so then you can find out what God has put in your spirit, so then you can bring it forth, so then you can carry it out, so then before you leave this earth, you're able to carry out the mission that God has placed to be on the inside of you. So it is important that, number one, you got to stop standing in your own way. You got to believe what God believes about you. It's a constant battle between yourself, but you got to figure out what's more important, believing what other people say about you, or really believing what God believes about you, and also believing in yourself too. It's very, very, very important that all of us have to embrace the idea and the concept that we got to believe in ourselves and believe what God believes about us, and trust that, and not trust what anyone else says about us, because what other people say about us, it does not matter to what God says about us. So I'm hoping that this message has really blessed and encouraged and motivated you to really understand. You got to stop standing in your own way and believe what God believes about you. So then you can be able to extract whatever it is that God is trying to work through you, so that you can bring it up out of you and then bring it to forth, and you can come into prosperity. You can come into progression. You continue to advance and get everything that you want out of this life before you leave here. So I'm hoping again that this message has blessed you guys. If so, please share with somebody who needs to know this, and I'll see y'all next time. TC out.